Hello and welcome back to Studio Session. I'm Catherine and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. This is our first official episode of March, so that is super exciting, and let's jump right into our report. For reading, this is kind of a funny story. So this weekend I had my swim state championship, and in my individual event, I actually ended up getting DQ'd. Whoops, they claimed I did a false start, not because I actually left the block early, but I guess because when they said take your mark, I moved my foot, and I guess that's technically counts as like part of my foot leaving the block. So I got DQ'd, which was very unfortunate, but they typed up like an official DQ report. And when I showed my team, Lucas was like, you have to say that for reading on the podcast. So this is my reading. It's the DQ report. I thought it was kind of funny. Because I'm a senior, it doesn't really matter. I wasn't like striving for anything in particular, so I just kind of laughed it off. But that is what I'm reading. For eating, I think that the True Fruit little like snacks are like freeze-dried fruit covered in chocolate. They're so good. And for a while I was like, oh, they're so overrated. Like they're good, but I don't know if they're really worth all the hype they get. They are. I recently tried the dark chocolate covered raspberry, and I'm not really a dark chocolate person. I'm very much a milk or even white chocolate kind of person, but the dark chocolate covered raspberry were so good, and I really want to try the different fruits. For playing, okay, a couple podcast episodes back, we reviewed the Billy Joel album. And I didn't rank Scenes from an Italian Restaurant as my favorite, but I've been listening to the album since, and that has become my favorite. I have it on like my throwback playlist. It's just so good. I don't know why I didn't rank it higher the first time. For obsessing, I'm just obsessed with the sun being out. Spring is approaching, and I just love the idea that the sun is going to set later soon. Daylight savings is super soon. I just love that whole idea of it becoming warmer, sun being out more. For recommending, I recommend that you just do some random acts of kindness today. You can compliment someone's shirt, hold the door for someone. I don't know, it just makes you feel better too. And for treating, honestly, I'm not really treating myself to anything because this month in my personal finance class, we have to track our spendings in like a expense and income log. And I really don't want to have to fill that up with like meaningless little purchases. So I will not really be treating myself too much this month. That's it for today's report, and let's jump into our main segment. I'm joined with Lucas for our main segment, and as I mentioned at the end of the last podcast episode, our theme for March is kind of going through albums that are like colors of the rainbow as a little ode to St. Patrick's Day, gold at the end of the rainbow, that whole kind of thing. So of course we're starting with Red, and our Red album, we're going off of album covers by the way, our Red album cover is Anti by Rihanna. This is a pop album that was released in 2016. Okay, starting off with my favorite on the album, I gave it to Love on the Brain. This is definitely one of the most popular on the album. I just love kind of the build-up. It has such a cool beat. It's catchy. I love the instrumentals in the background. And I think her vocals just really shine in this song. I don't know, it's just so vibey per se. I just really like this song. So Love on the Brain was my favorite on the album.
Yeah, I agreed. I also had Love on the Brain as my most favorite song. It was definitely a very soulful track. I also liked the background sound that was going on. And I just felt like the lyrics were pretty meaningful and like almost like just the weight they held was more than some of the other tracks on this album. I feel like there's some that are just like club bangers, if you will. And this was not one of those. This was like a real soulful track, and I really appreciated it.
My second favorite on the album was Needed Me. I think this is just kind of like a unique song because it almost feels like there's like different aspects to it. Like it's still one cohesive song, but I don't know, I just really liked this song. I had a cool beat, and I think I forgot that this was actually on this album. Like I knew this song, but I didn't realize it was on this album, like with all these other songs too. I just think it fits in so well. It's not like the most like in your face like pop song, but it still has kind of that like iconic Rihanna elements, if that makes any sense. I just really like the song, so Needed Me was my second favorite.
Okay, so when I was first looking at the album, I noticed there was this song, Same Old Mistakes, and I was like, wow, that, if only there was a song called New Person on this album. Now, needless to say, I was surprised when I turned on this song and heard that it was actually the Tame Impala song. I said this was my second most favorite for that reason. It just really surprised me, and it was a welcome surprise. Definitely a great track, and Rihanna was a great element to it. It reminded me of her husband, ASAP Rocky, or maybe partner, I don't know if they're married, but he also randomly just had a single that was a Tame Impala sample. I thought that was pretty interesting. Rihanna just covers this banger and it bangs, and it was just an incredible surprise.
I also thought that this cover was so interesting because when I had this album playing, and it got to this song, I had to like do a double take. I'm like, oops, like did I accidentally click off of the album? Like did I go to the Tame Impala album instead? But I checked and it was indeed her. I think this was also, I thought it was a well done cover. So for my underrated pick, before that, I just like to also give a shout out to Kiss It Better. That was my third favorite. And yeah, I don't know. Good song. And for my underrated, I gave it to Desperado. I was really surprised. The reason why I gave this underrated is because I was surprised to see this as not one of the ones that Apple classified as like the most popular. As I mentioned on another podcast, Apple puts like a little dot or maybe it's a star, I don't know, a little symbol next to like the most popular tracks on any given album. So I was just really surprised that this wasn't one of the most popular. I thought it was like unique and a little bit different from some of the other ones. I just thought it was like a cool song. I don't really know how to describe it. I just thought, I don't know, it was a really good addition to the album and I was surprised it didn't get more love.
I said the Kiss It Better was my underrated song. I'm not sure if it had the star, but I just felt like it wasn't a song you think of when you think Rihanna. At least I didn't. Like Work is directly following it, I believe. And although the lyrics are not the best, I really appreciated the guitar at the start and throughout. And the refrain isn't half bad. And I just think overall this is a pretty solid track that deserves more love.
Okay, I realized that usually I do my least favorite before underrated. I don't know, I guess I was just really excited to jump into that underrated pick. For my least favorite, just a little note, I did not include Goodnight Gotham because it didn't really have real lyrics. That probably would have been my least favorite for that reason, but I didn't include it because I thought it was more of like an interlude type thing. So for my least favorite song that actually had lyrics, I gave it to Yeah, I Said It. I just thought it was boring. That's kind of all. It wasn't really like an emotional ballad, nor was it like the fun, upbeat pop hit that I think we got a good mix of on this album. It was just kind of there. And I don't know, it wasn't a standout. It was just boring, like I said. So Yeah, I Said It was my least favorite.
I also said that. Yeah, I said it was my least favorite. The lyricism was at an all-time questionable peak here. I just wasn't sure what to make of this track, especially just I like I don't- it just there's so many songs in this album where it's like they qualify for that category of not bad but not good either. This is kind of below that. I'm just not the biggest fan.
This brings us to our overall album rating. And just by the way Luke's is describing these songs, I think I actually might have a higher ranking again. I gave this album an 8.5 out of 10 because I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't realize how many great songs were all on this album. Like I'm familiar with a bunch of Rihanna songs, but I didn't realize that so many were on this album in particular. I thought that what really made this album extra great in my mind was that there's such a good variety. There are a couple of like slower, more like ballads, a couple of like the classic Rihanna pop hits, a couple of good in-betweens. There's a couple interludes, the cover, like we said. I just thought the mix really made the album. I thought that was amazing. I thought there were no like overly bad sections. There weren't like 3 songs in a row that I was like, meh. Yeah, just a really good mix. Amazing pop hits. And I just really can't wait to see what Rihanna does next. This just reminded me of how great of an artist she is.
Yeah, I guess the tides have turned here because we've been on a stretch of me being under the Catherine line, and that is true once again. I gave this one a 7. Just not the most memorable album. Definitely has its highs and its lows, but yeah, I saying there's nothing special about this album is actually insane. But just compared to some of the peaks that we've had with the other albums, I just feel like the peaks are smaller. And I think that's an accurate representation of this album. I just feel like although it's a good album, it's not really a great album.
I think it's so interesting how for so long Luke is constantly rated higher than me, but I feel like the past couple of albums we've either had like a tied ranking or I've been higher. Just really interesting. That's it for our main segment, and let's jump into our next one. Okay, so for our playlist essentials today, we are doing songs that remind us of spring. Spring is coming. I think it starts on like March 20th, 19th, somewhere around that line. So we decided to do songs that remind us of spring, just to kind of celebrate the start of spring being soon. And I think we all just need some happy, springy songs in our lives right about now. Okay, my third place, I feel like this is a classic. I gave it to Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. This song just brings up such good childhood memories for me. Maybe it's just because this was constantly playing in like the background of like my old home videos. It just brings a tear to my eye, and not many like happy songs do that. I usually only like get really sad when I'm sad, but this just, I don't know, it's so nostalgic, it's happy. Obviously, as the title, Here Comes the Sun. Spring's coming, the sun is coming. This is just such a cute song and definitely deserves to be on this list.
Okay, so I have a couple honorable mentions. First one, this one falls into the category of I already said it probably. That's Just a Cloud Away by Pharrell Williams on the Minions album. Me and Your Mama by Childish Gambino. I don't know why, I just had this one written down, and I didn't want to go too far into it because, as you guys know, we're doing the Colors of the Rainbow for the Leprechauns listening, and that album covers blue. And my third honorable mention is Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So my third song here is Sundress by A$AP Rocky. This is the song that I mentioned before, coincides with Same Old Mistakes. It samples Why Won't You Make Up Your Mind, which is an older Tame Impala track, but still definitely a good one. And I just really like the flow on this. It's definitely a good break. Although A$AP isn't what you might think of as the most like aggressive rapper like some of these other guys are, it's a very calm, soothing track, and highly recommend to put it on your playlist.
Oh, I love that song. That just reminded me of how much I really like that song. Okay, my second pick is Cinema by Harry Styles. And the reason I picked this one is because the Harry's House album came out in the springtime, I think in like May-ish, a couple of years ago. So I just always correlate this album with spring. And so I knew I wanted to include one of these tracks on this playlist essentials. And I chose Cinema just because I think it's like a cute, upbeat, happy song. That just kind of reminded me of spring and things getting warmer and happier. That's kind of it. Just simple reasoning, but Cinema by Harry Styles is definitely a springtime song to me.
So when we get these categories, I try to think of like, okay, if it was like this, what would I be doing? And for spring coming, I just thought of like a couple days ago, it was nice. I was riding and I had the windows down. So a song I would play in this scenario, I said Tell Her About It by Billy Joel. This was not on the album that we reviewed, but definitely a banger, one of his best. I know he's been touring recently. I would have loved to see this live. Just a nice, happy song, happy ending, and yeah, I definitely think this is a good song for this time of year.
And that leads me to my number one pick for springtime songs. I chose Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac. Again, this is just such like a warm, upbeat song. It has such a good tune, nice lyrics, amazing vocals, and it just kind of reminds me of being like outside, which is obviously what you do in the springtime. Just such a happy, upbeat song. I play this so much in the summer. It's definitely on like my summer playlist, but when I was thinking of songs, I was like, this reminds me of spring too. It's just warm. I don't know. It's just a warm, happy song. So Ever by Fleetwood Mac was my top pick for spring songs.
All right, yeah, definitely a little difficult to differentiate between spring and summer because I feel like there's a lot of songs that are really built towards summer. This one I feel like, though, is a timeless classic that can be played at any time of year. I picked American Boy by Estelle featuring Kanye. Although I can't hear this song without thinking of the Fortnite remix, it's still just an incredible song. It makes me happy every time I hear it. And I've discovered it in the past couple weeks, and it's come into my playlist, and I've been playing it a little bit. And I think it is the best song to throw on your spring playlist.
That was definitely a super fun playlist essentials. I just love doing these playlist essentials because I have so many songs on my playlist that sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I wish I had a whole other playlist for like a specific mood or a specific time of year." So just making these, I don't know, inspires me to do that. Okay, that was it for this segment, and let's jump into our final one. All right, so for our final segment today, of course, we have what to expect next. Our Orange album for this month is Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. We already did a Frank Ocean album, but I'm excited to give this one a listen because I think he's a really cool artist. So I'm excited to listen to more of his discography. Any closing remarks?
Yeah, so yesterday on Instagram, We had a new Tame Impala post for the first time in a little bit, and it said, "Don't worry," with a picture of Kevin Parker working in the studio. I really hope this means that the album is coming soon because it's been a very long time.
Oh, I'm so excited. Hopefully, he drops something soon. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.